Right off the bat, I'm going to address something real quick. The title is a bit of a lie. I did not watch the 2001 Planet of the Apes movie. While I was doing my research before I started this binge, I heard that not only was the movie incredibly bad, but it was also the only movie in the entire franchise that was a standalone movie with no sequels and no connections, so I just decided to skip it. But besides that, I have managed to watch every single Planet of the Apes movie over the past few days, and today I'm going to go ahead and throw them on this tier list. We're going to go ahead and start off with the original Planet of the Apes movie from 1968. This movie is definitely a product of its time, but fortunately, I'm really good at looking past that to be able to find like the true value in a movie regardless of its age. One thing I really like about this movie is how it really like dives deep into the lore of like 2000 years in the future, like ape dominated civilization. And so for all that, we're going to go ahead and throw this we're going to throw this in the good tier. It's not a bad movie in my opinion. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and rank beneath the Planet of the Apes. The entire first half of this movie is pretty much a remake of the original Planet of the Apes. It quite literally follows the exact same plot up until we get to the end of the original Planet of the Apes, in which then it explores some very interesting lore and themes that I honestly was not expecting from this movie. But even with the very interesting lore and the very interesting themes of the movie is still kind of a mess and it's kind of all over the place. And for that, I'm going to have to put it in bad. I'm sorry, but this one was like, I finished watching it and I was like, okay, like, a lot just happened. Like, it wasn't there for me. Next up on the list is Escape from the Planet of the Apes. While this movie definitely is not the best within the original franchise movies, it's definitely the one that I think I had the most fun with. Seeing Cornelius and Zira experience modern day Earth was very interesting and very funny. Watching them become celebrities and enjoying life was something I actually just found a lot of fun in within this movie. But then seeing how the doomed future was like looming the entire movie and how the government finds out about it and eventually decides that they have to kill Cornelius and Zira, like this movie was I liked this one. And for that I'm gonna have to go ahead and throw it in good right behind the original Planet of the Apes. Next up on this list is Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. I feel very like iffy about this movie. Now I want to say the themes that this movie explores are absolutely incredible. I feel like this movie was a lot deeper than the other movies, if that makes sense. But I have to say that the characters in this movie were not as interesting as any of the other characters that I had seen so far. I also want to say that Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is actually extremely similar plot-wise to Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I thought was interesting. But regardless of that, I'm going to go ahead and throw Conquest of the Planet of the Apes in the midsection just because the plot was not very interesting up until the very end of the movie. The next movie on this list is Battle for the Planet of the Apes. This movie is incredibly similar to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's got Caesar leading the main groups of apes. One of the apes just hates humans, and then that same ape betrays Caesar and tries to take over, causing a war between the apes and the humans. It's literally like bar for bar. It's the movies are so similar. One thing I really like about this movie though is the personal journey that Caesar goes through as the main character. Even though I didn't find him that interesting in Conquest, I think Caesar really stepped up as a character in this movie. And so for all that, I'm going to go ahead and throw Battle for the Planet of the Apes in third place in the good category. Now we're starting to get to the modern franchise for the Planet of the Apes movies. To start us off with the modern franchise, we're going to go ahead and rank Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and I gotta say, this movie is absolutely peak. Just like I said with the last movie, Caesar's journey in this movie is so remarkable to watch. We see all the things Caesar has to go through to become the amazing leader that he is for the rest of the franchise. And I feel like I shouldn't have to mention this, but the amazing step up that there is from the original franchise to the modern franchise when it comes to the visuals of the apes and the monkeys, man, I gotta mention it. And like I said before, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, it's peak. I gotta put it up there. Next up, we got Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Me personally, I thought Koba as an antagonist, I thought he was kind of annoying, but regardless of that, I can admit that his writing is still very good and his motives are still very good. I also like the parallels that we see from the humans in this movie, and I like that we see Caesar reminding himself that it is okay to trust humans at times. And for all that, we're going to go ahead and put Dawn right above Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Next up is War of the Planet of the Apes. I'm going to be honest, this movie is still very good, but it just did not have the sauce that the other two movies in this trilogy had. One thing I really do like about this movie, though, is how it develops the simian flu and how it helps us understand what it's doing to humans. But one thing I noted when I was watching this movie is that it felt very long and it was kind of all over the place. And that might be a dramatic way of trying to communicate what I'm saying. Like, don't take that literally. It just felt like at times there was so much going on, but I couldn't tell where the movie was really trying to go. And for that, we're going to give it the absolute top spot in good. Because like I said, this movie is still very good and I still like this movie. And last but not least, we got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'm going to be completely honest, guys. When I went to see this movie in theaters, I had extremely high expectations and I was kind of let down. While I'm not going to sit here and say this movie is bad, I've seen a lot of movies in theaters this year and I'm just going to be honest. This was the first movie this year where I actually was falling asleep in the theater. I feel like this movie was incredibly boring. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the movie, this is your chance to click off the video now. I don't think this movie got interesting until we got to that one scene where it was Noah, May, Proximus Caesar, and that other human being all sitting at the table talking. Once we got to that point, I thought the movie was really good, very interesting, all the good things. But before that, I wasn't that into it, I'm going to be honest. But by no means is the movie bad, by no means is it even mid. I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the good tier, right behind War, because it's still better than all the movies from the old franchise, but it is definitely the weakest one in the new franchise. And I don't think that's a hot take. And with that being said, this is my completed tier list for the Planet of the Apes franchise. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button for me. Comment down below if there's anything that I should do differently, any video I should make that you guys want to see. And I'll see you guys in the next one.